Aloha, I'm Paul Normann. I'm the Executive Director of Neighborhood Place of Puna. And today, since it's the beginning of October, I wanted to talk a little bit about Archbishop Desmond Tutu as part of our Hero series. So maybe you know who he is, maybe you don't. He's a Nobel Peace Laureate, South African priest, and obviously Archbishop. And to really talk about Desmond Tutu, talk about Archbishop Tutu, we have to talk a little bit about apartheid in South Africa. And for those of you who don't know or don't remember, apartheid was the violent and repressive system of racial segregation in South Africa that ensured the minority white population remained in power. And this racist this policy of apartheid was just enforced ruthlessly by official security forces, as well as unofficial but government-sponsored death squads. The white minority government, as part of apartheid, also displaced millions of Black Africans from their homes into Black African neighborhoods. And also most public spaces, public transportations, hospitals were segregated. And in white South Africa, Black Africans need to have a pass to be there, to work or whatever. So it was in this environment that that Desmond Tutu, that Archbishop Tutu, began to work in the mid-60s. I mean, he was born in South Africa, but trained for the priesthood in England, and returned to South Africa in the mid-60s, and very quickly became a leader, a vocal leader in the anti-apartheid movement. And the thing that I think is important to remember is that even though he was very active and very engaged in the anti-apartheid movement, he was also a member of the clergy, right? He's a member of the Anglican Church, which has its own racist history, and that while advocating for an end to apartheid, while organizing protests, while doing all of the many things that he was doing, he still had to balance that his position, his institutional position as first a priest, and then a bishop, and then later an archbishop. And so when we talk about Archbishop Tutu, and the eventual ending of apartheid, we have to recognize, or for me, the thing I really find inspiring is that his focus was on reconciliation and healing, right? And to be clear, I mean, he was not taking a weak stance, but he recognized that I think he recognized that the situation was so bad in South Africa that they really were on the precipice of civil war, and that he felt he could offer an alternative, right? By being a person of faith, by continually reminding people of these higher spiritual values. And, Archbishop Tutu took many, many personal risks. He was hated by pretty much all sides on the issue. I mean, the general population loved him and supported him, but the folks on the conservative folks, the pro-apartheid people, of course, couldn't stand him. Many of the more progressive. Folks in the Anglican Church thought he was too radical. Some of the different specific Black African groups thought he was too conciliatory towards the pro-apartheid government. And, and he would often wade into conflicts where there were very clear, very hard positions taken, one side or the other, and would try to de-escalate to minimize the amount of violence that was happening in the country. He definitely had this bigger vision of a transition out of apartheid, and not in a kind of weak incremental, we'll make little changes here, I think that he saw that an end to apartheid had to a complete end to apartheid had to happen, that it couldn't be changed incrementally through bureaucratic steps. But he also saw that it had to be done in a way that created a more unified country, a more unified people in the end. And so when apartheid did finally end in 1994 with open elections, he was then he then chaired the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, which of course wasn't a perfect the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which of course wasn't a perfect process by any means, but the goal there was to take a restorative justice approach to the violence and the human rights abuses and the wrongs that had been committed on all sides, and offer a way for some healing so that so South Africa could move forward and not get stuck in recriminations and hatred and just a very just stuck in the past, really. So of course, I'm just giving you a very brief thumbnail sketch of the life of some of the work of Desmond Tutu. I for sure can't do justice to all of the things that he did, to the amazing life that he led, to the leadership that he demonstrated in very, very difficult situations. So I encourage you to do a little research on your own. Personally, I find John Allen's book, Rabble Rouser for Peace, to be inspiring, that not only captures the work that Archbishop Tutu was doing, but also really gets a sense of what was going on in South Africa at the time. And, you know, for Neighborhood Place of Puna and for us, and, you know, for those of us who are working in human services fields, who are trying to affect change, who are trying to create a more compassionate society, a more just society. You know, I think when we look at Desmond Tutu, when we look at our other heroes, what we see is that it is possible for powerful, entrenched institutions to be overcome, to be transformed, and to be radically transformed, right? I mean, that's the thing, it can be radically transformed over time, even if things seem hopeless. And, you know, here in the United States, we're still very fortunate. Things are nowhere close to as bad as they were in South Africa, but we can see what was going on in South Africa. We can definitely see some reflection, a little bit of ourselves in the conflict in South Africa, and we can learn from that. And, you know, for me and for Neighborhood Place of Puna, you know, I find Desmond Tutu, Archbishop Tutu, to be a quite hopeful figure, because, you know, we are trying to create a society, trying to create a community in which every family has the opportunity to thrive. You know, a society in which no family, and certainly no child, ever has to experience homelessness or hunger or want. And I think Archbishop Tutu shows us that that's possible, that we can make the changes necessary to create that community, a community which we want to live in. Because in the end, you know, when there are families and children suffering for lack, that harms us. That harms us as a community. That is a weakness in our community. And we all want to live in a community, a strong community, a healthy community, a thriving community. So if you want to find out a little bit more about the work that Neighborhood Place of Puna does, please visit neighborhoodplaceofpuna.org. If you like this video, please click the like button. Please subscribe to our channel. And if you want to get notifications when the next video comes out, hit the bell. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week. Aloha.